Hello folks, welcome to El Canal Channel Jose. Today we're going to talk about power steering. In most cases, we are turning our car and we have the comfort of the steering being soft, but sometimes it starts getting harder to turn the car and we start noticing that we have to struggle more and it is so stiff. Today, in modern cars, there's electronic motors that turn as you're turning, so everything's more sophisticated. But in the older or some of most cars, it was a power steering. So this pump in the engine, as the engine is turning, there's a belt connected to this pump, and as it's creating pressure and we turn, this assistance of this pump sends the hydraulic pressure to the steering column or the steering components, so it makes our steering easier. But sometimes it starts getting harder, and before you start taking it to the shops, we're going to show you what you can do to avoid big expenses. And with that, let's jump right into it. So now you're in the light and you're about to turn left or turn right, and then your turn comes up, and then you start turning, and then you start noticing that the car starts getting a little bit harder to turn. So now you got to use both hands, because you can't use just one hand to turn it like you used to, and because the power steering was there all the time. So before you start taking your car to get checked out in the mechanic shop, check the reservoir for the power steering fluid and make sure it's up to the level that it needs to, because most of the time it could be just a lower power steering fluid and the pump is not getting all that liquid or the fluid to work properly. So if you just spend a couple dollars on a bottle of power steering fluid and you topped off that to the level that it needs to be, now you have saved yourself lots of money, because you just bought a couple dollars power steering bottle, fill that up to the level, and now you got your power steering back. But if that level drops again, then now we need to take it to a mechanic and have it checked why that level is dropping. There might be a ripped hose, there might be a broken hose, or something is going on. But if you just topped it off and everything goes back to normal, now you don't need to take it to a mechanic shop just to tell you that it was just a power steering fluid when you could have found out that yourself and topped it off. Today we have our case that our power steering on our 66 is very low and there's no oil in there. So we're going to show you what we mean by having no fluid on the power steering pump and making yourself struggle as you try to turn the car. So we're going to add fluid to it and everything's going to come back to normal. So we're going to share this personal experience with you, so that way you can check your own levels, and it's a very easy procedure. So on our 66, here's a power steering, and that's a reservoir. So we're going to open it. There's a cap, and there is where we add the oil. We put our finger in there and it's dry, there's no oil. So right now we have no oil on the reservoir for a power steering. So we're going to turn on the car and try to turn it with that, and we're going to add fluid. So in our case, we have a problem because we have that oil on the oil pan right here on this. So we know that there's no oil on the power steering, but it's in there. So we have a problem somewhere in there with a broken hose or something. So we're gonna turn it on. This is just for educational purpose. We're gonna turn it on before we add the oil, and then after we add the oil. But we know that we have to attend this problem. We're just basing like if it was just low on oil. As you could see, there was a weird noise coming from the power steering pump as soon as we run the engine. So we're gonna add fluid and then try to turn the car once there's fluid in it. So we just added fluid. We're gonna turn on the engine and make that pump work. So we wanted to expose this because sometimes we think that just because the power steering or our system is hard to turn, it might be a component that has gone bad, and all it is just the fluid that it needs to be topped off, and you don't have to spend a lot of money. So that's why this info might be very important to a lot of people. So now that we have topped up for power steering, we know that we have a problem ourselves. So we're going to address that later on. But for today, we wanted to make sure that you know that that might be always a component. It might be just a level of the fluid that is just with time, it just needed to be refilled. So we put our cover back on and we're done with this. Well, folks, hopefully this video was useful and helpful. And for our friends who are watching the video and haven't subscribed to our channel, please subscribe. If you like the video, give us thumbs up, share it, and we'll see you soon with more videos here in el canal, El Chano Jose.